We met in grad school at Florida State University, and we got go Seminoles. Grad students went on to life, so I go sports. But we met down there, and I think just good working relationship since, and a lot of blackmail.
And was Mortuary Collection an idea even as early as then?
I think we bonded back in the day over love of such things as horror anthologies, Tales from the Crypt, Twilight Zone, things like that. Ryan's style is obviously kind of an homage to that, and it's fun, it's kind of stories that aren't afraid to be stories. And so we both dug that, and when he first got out, we moved out to Los Angeles in 2007. And this was the first project we started pitching around town back in the day, and so 12 years later it finally made it to the screen.
And then its first iteration was, of course, The Babysitter Murders, which was a standalone short. What were the challenges in going, okay, we already have this one piece, and now we have to do the rest of the movie to kind of match what we already achieved in that one piece? What were some of the production challenges in that transition?
Sure, so The Babysitter Murders, which was the last sequence that you guys saw, we actually shot that like 5 years ago, and we used that as a proof of concept because, believe it or not, it takes a little bit of money to make movies, not a lot, but we tried to pitch. In fact, there's a lot of volunteers, and I talked about it earlier. We tried to pitch the project around town, and no one would give us the money to do it, so we thought if we make a proof of concept and show them just how good it is, maybe people will trust us. And so we made Babysitter Murders with a Kickstarter back in the day, and after that we were able to scratch together a little bit to pull off the rest. So it kind of matches, but since it's her story and her vision, we took some creative liberty with it being a little different because it came from her mind versus Montgomery Dark's. So yeah.
And speaking of Montgomery Dark, Clancy Brown, what an amazingly fun performance! So good. With that, it clearly seems to be channeling Angus Scrimm, and I imagine actually when the project began, Angus was still with us. Was he initially what was hoped for?
I know Clancy channeled him quite a bit. Ryan, again, we're in love with the classics, but we also wanted to try to find a new twist on everything. And as you can tell, everything kind of leans into the old school foundation, but hopefully surprises us in a new way. And Clancy, we hope did that. By the way, he says hi to everybody up here. He was a joy to work with, and he just had a lot of fun getting back to his roots. ADI, who did Starship Troopers back in the day, did our prosthetics with him as well. So they had a lot of fun making his teeth and his head and everything.
Was the voice something that Ryan had an idea for initially, or did he come in and sort of like? What was it like that first day in the set where he's fully made up, doing the voice? Well,
I think when he finally walked on set, we shot that portion up in Astoria, Oregon, which is this amazing little town, which if you guys haven't been there, I recommend that you go. They shot The Goonies there, they shot Short Circuit, Kindergarten Cop, all these things that we grew up on. So we're kind of like nerding out a little bit when we got there, but it's this small little 10,000 person town, and it's idyllic. And we saved the mortuary itself and the stuff that we shot with Clancy for up there. So we shot there for 2 weeks with him. And I know when he walked on set in that old Victorian, the crew kind of had a little moment. But yeah, that voice too, it just kind of booms. So yeah, it was a pleasure.
Do you have questions from the audience? And actually, to encourage questions, you got some...
I do, I have some, I brought gifts. So you guys might have seen these toe tags laying around, but they're actual toes that are attached to them. And ADI, like I said, who did all these things, actually made us these. We had an artist over there made a custom toe for our tags as gifts. So we have a limited number of these, and if we got 3 questions, I got 3 toes.
So I'm going to start with the one in the middle right there. Yes.
Did you ever think about making, I guess, Charlotte's character more likable, or to have slightly lesser of a sin than cannibalizing 12
Was it ever considered to make Charlotte's character more likable and her sin not as grievous as cannibalizing small children?
Oh, what's wrong with that? That's a line to cross? No, we definitely wanted her sin to be one that was pretty egregious to warrant such a fate. And, Ryan kind of leaves it up to interpretation about what Clancy's backstory was. But obviously he's been trapped there for a while too. So a fate that's befitting of the sin was important for us. So it is kind of a line to cross, but yeah. And by the way, if you guys, Ryan is very cool with like just DMing him, Ryan Spindell. You can find him on Twitter and Instagram. He's happy to answer like specific stuff like that. I mean, we're still just like nerd filmmakers, so we're happy to.
And before we go to the next question, if you want to come down and collect your toe,
come on down
for you.
Yeah.
At the very back, waving hands, yes?
What was your favorite room in the mortuary to shoot in?
What was your favorite room? Was that the room in the mortuary? What was your favorite room in that set to shoot in?
Okay, cool. So that was a big old mansion up there in Astoria, and it was a George Spindell house, which you can tour. It's like this old historic society place. And obviously it wasn't a mortuary, we had to like change it. The embalming room was like a dining room, so it was really fun. That's actually the Astoria, Oregon mortuary embalming table that we found at the mortuary a couple blocks away, and we hauled it in. And all the stuff that you see there, a good portion of it's from, again, like the Historic Society or antique stores and stuff. And the books in the office are from like the records of Astoria too. So a lot of that stuff was fun to dress, but I think the embalming room was probably the coolest.
Right there.
You don't have to go into too much detail. Were there any sins or stories that didn't make the cut?
Were there any other stories that were considered for the anthology? I seem to remember when you were pitching it, there might have been a few others.
That's a really cool question. We did. So the first story, the very short one, wasn't in the original script because we had a much larger story that took place with a telemarketer that everybody loves. So it was going to be our first one to start it off, but we shot half of it, the unprotected until death, and then realized we were running out of that little budget we had pretty fast. And we couldn't afford to do another large-scale story. So rather than just have two stories and babysitter murders, we decided to cut that whole short and make a little bitty contained thriller that we wanted to make for a while, which is Medicine Cabinet. And if you catch me afterwards, I'll tell you the exact plot of that.
Yeah,
one.
come to the pub afterwards, and you can hear the other sin and the other story right over there.
Was the doctor the voice behind the door in Medicine Cabinet?
She got it.
Yeah, the doctor was the voice
Yes.
behind the cabinet.
Yeah, so Dr. Kugler is in every single short. It wasn't planned that way, but it slowly worked itself into it. And at one point, we're still working on a poster. We're that new. You guys are very, very early in seeing this, but one of the pitches was to have like the exorcist thing with the doctor standing there in his bag, walking into the town, because he just is a catalyst of bad things.
I really want to know the story behind why he's not allowed to hold a scalpel anymore. Right over there?
The light?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I don't know if you're allowed to answer this, but I'm going to ask anyway. If
Sure.
you're able to somehow get a budget, are you going to continue making a second one? Do it!
Thank you. I appreciate it. We would love to make more. Again, we love these horror anthologies. We'd love to get a little bit more budget because it's just killed us. Obviously, Ryan can't move his back. It's kind of unrelated, but still. It's doing something like this. I said, you kind of know the timeline. We shot the Babysitter Murders 5 years ago, and then we've been shooting this thing for like 2 years with all of our favors and all of our friends and everything. So I think it'd take another 10 before we could ramp up with that level of budget. But if we had an opportunity, yeah, we have lots of stupid ideas in our head to make more.
And certainly, if you guys want to see one, let the world know that you want to see one, and support the film when it hits VOD and theaters, wherever you can find it. Yeah, write reviews on Letterboxd, IMDb, tweet about it. Support the film.
Appreciate it.
Perhaps the second one will occur. Yes.
You mentioned a lot of volunteers help with the project. Any fun stories from there, from just people giving their time?
Yeah. Was there any memorable people who showed up to help? In a small town of 10,000 people.
There are quite a few. Like all those cars are part of the Astoria Car Club. All the people that were there to paint. I'm trying to think. There's a really memorable one. We had a lot of great little, like young kids. I say little, but they're like high school students who hung out, and a couple really wanted to be actors. And this one kid was so great and so dedicated, and Clancy noticed that he was hanging around set quite a bit. He's like, hey, what's the story of this kid? It's like, oh, he wants to be an actor, he's, It's like, cool. And then I found Clancy a little bit later sitting down with him on the steps of the house talking to this kid. And I'm like, oh my God, this is really cool. But I came up to give him an out if he needed it. I'm like, hey, so you need anything? He's like, no, I'm good. So he talked to this guy for like a long time. And man, you should have seen his eyes light up. But yeah, we had a lot of dedicated volunteers. Nothing really too crazy. But just a lot of energy comes from that. Even the old surly grip and electric guys who've been doing this for years and years and years. You see a bunch of kids helping out. It helps.
The props in the film are so great, and you were just telling me when we were watching the movie that one of your actors volunteered a certain picture to appear in the film.
Yeah,
and unprotected.
Jacob Elordi, and if you guys have seen him in like Kissing Booth or Euphoria, yeah, he's great. And we actually cast him before those came out, and we didn't really know much about him, but he blew us away. He did a tape before an audition. And that picture that he hides away, we augmented it with a little Photoshop, but that's him. So, yeah, it's a nice little Easter egg.
Yes, right at the back. We have time for a few more right there.
What's the best, worst thing that happened?
What was the best, worst day?
These are great questions, especially for 11:45. The best, worst thing that happened, I think, okay, so we're going to shoot up in Montreal, in Quebec City. We came up, we scouted it, we met with a couple people, and we loved the look up here. But we got pretty far down the line, and then our line producer called me. He's like, "Oh, hey guys, not a big deal, but I just discovered if we go out of country, you have to pay your actors like 4 times as much per SAG rules." And we're like, "Oh, really?" He's like, "Yeah. So I don't know if that changes things." I'm like, "That's our whole budget." So we had to not shoot there, and instead we kept looking. That's how we found Astoria, Oregon. So that's probably the best, worst thing that happened because that place is great.